Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first of our new podcast series called Factinating, a series in which each of our 5 hosts will explain a random fact each week based on a pre-chosen theme. After each fact has been explained, we will vote on a winner. The voting system goes as follows. Each fact will be judged by the presenters and given a score out of 30 across 3 sections, each section given a score out of 10. The person given the highest score is crowned the first undisputed Factinating champion. The 3 sections are legitness,
checking that the facts are in fact facts,
epicness,
how interesting each fact is,
pretty self-explanatory, and usefulness.
How much we can use that fact in real life.
Because as much as we all love knowing that most American car horns honk in the key of F, in 17 years I haven't needed this information. I hope in whatever years I've got left I never will. And unless you're producing car horns as a job, you probably won't either, meaning this fact would score very low on usefulness. Another thing I should add is that until the show's recorded live, myself, Ollie, Luca and Josh don't know each other's facts, so we'll just hope in advance that no one has brought in 2 the same or one about the tone of American car horns. With all that said, it's time for our first fact, presented by Jaigo Plummer, who has given a fact of history, given a theme of history.
So this week, I'll bring you a history-based fact. Hold on to your hats, people, as we are metaphorically travelling the 7 seas to discuss this piece of information. It is widely thought that pirates used to wear eye patches for missing eyes. However, contrary to popular belief, this was not the case. In fact, the eye patches were covering one eye to allow the pirates to have a sort of night vision. The eye that was covered would be adjusted to the dark cover of the eye patch, which meant if they had to go below deck, they could have better vision if they needed to fight or get anything that they might need. This fact can still be applied to today's society, with flight manuals stating that even though a bright light may shine in one eye, the other will retain its dark adaptation if it is protected from the light. This is a useful bit of information because a flyer can preserve dark adaptation in one eye by simply closing it. Even the FAA, being the Federal Aviation Administration, recommends that a pilot should close one eye when using a light to preserve some degree of night vision. You can see the FAA does recommend it, so that is a bit of...
What does the FAA stand for?
That's the Federal Aviation Administration.
Nice,
What
right.
country is it based in?
3 sections.
Wow.
Legitness. Seems pretty legit to me.
I haven't got any evidence to suggest otherwise,
You
really.
shouldn't believe everything you see on the internet. I'm going to say.
That's true, but if the FAA or whatever is
the FAA
saying
is
it,
pretty
then
good.
I'll take
pretty
that.
good
I'll take that as a
standard,
source.
really.
Right,
Although they
epicness.
don't judge. I mean, it is a pretty good fact, to be fair.
It's pretty good.
It
But
breaks
yeah,
down some...
it's not groundbreaking, I would say. But
Yeah.
I think it's a good fact.
I'll
It's
give it a
good fact.
solid 7.
So
Yeah,
7 out of 10 for that?
Yeah, right. So on legitness, we're pretty happy with that. That can be quite high. What are we going for legitness?
I'd say a good A. Good A.
I'd say 8. 'Cause there's
7.5,
nothing
set
against
the
it.
limit or something.
No, we're not doing 0.5.
No.
Just going to make
I'll
our
go
show.
eight.
We're going 8.
Why
Okay.
don't you do 0.5? Everybody likes 0.5.
What are you trying to say?
The majority vote is 8. I think
I'm saying
legitness.
8.
Yeah, we'll go 8.
I'm going 8. So
Sorry,
Jaigo,
Luca.
legitness.
Overruled.
His loot score is currently at 8.
Okay, epicness. I
Epicness.
think this is an interesting fact.
I think it is pretty interesting, yeah.
But as Josh said, it's not one that you'd
Probably
go
will
home and
use
tell
every
your
day.
family about. But it's a good fact.
I think, yeah. I think it's pretty
7.
interesting.
I think 7's a solid number. It's a good number.
Seven's good.
7.
Yeah. 7,
Yeah,
why
I'll
not?
settle 7.
Settle for a 7.
Okay, usefulness.
I mean,
If
I
it's
ever
still
have
used
to-
today,
it
I
is,
reckon
yeah.
like 9 because if you
Are
can.
we going to use it though?
that's the
It
thing.
is,
Close
it
an
is
eye.
something you could use at a party though. So like,
If you're about to go in
Is
the dark,
it?
you close an eye.
Yeah.
I mean, at a party, you could be like, if somebody's wearing an eye patch, you'd be like, eye patches actually use
Do
them.
many people
Yeah.
wear
Well,
eye
Jesus
patches at the
Christ,
parties you go
I
to?
don't
All
know.
the
Have
time.
you met any?
All the time.
Not many.
Yeah, I've met like
Every
3
day.
people last night.
I
Right.
suppose you could
There's always a
walk
guy
into
walking
like
down
It
Camden.
coat
is,
and
the
wrist.
thing is, it could be really useful for
Yeah, true.
a pilot. It's just how many of us are pilot. I'm gonna go. I think 7 again. It's fair.
I'd say
Yeah,
6.
I'd say
I think
7.
it's a lot
6.
less general, but it is still applicable.
I say 7.
7, Luca. 6 or 7.
Oh, 7, sorry.
7.
I was
Seven.
nodding to be at 7.
Okay, 7.
So his total loot score is 14 plus 8, which gives us a grand total
15, 20.
of... Sorry, not 15.
Wait, oh
26.
shit. Oh no, I was
gonna
adding
say-
it up.
26.
Yeah.
No, I was
The
adding
math
it like
was
a solid
8,
score.
7,
It is
and
a
then
good
was
score.
going to add the
I
rest.
mean, it'd be better if that
That's
score
right.
was right. It's 22.
Oh
Good.
god.
Oh well.
Let's keep that
So
in.
it
there.
is. So it is.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen,
So
we're a
nice.
fact-based podcast, not a maths one.
Yeah.
And that is a fact.
I only did A-level maths for 1 year. How am I meant to know that?
I didn't, Mr. Lynn. Good psychology though, if that helps.
Okay.
That's
It's always good.
Right, well then. That's enough talk about Pirates Site. Now it's time to see what Josh brings us.
Mine is also historical in some sense, but it's also scientific. So,
Okay.
a pocket calculator these days, right, has more computing power than we used for the moon landing, so Apollo 11.
I've heard that. I've heard
I've
that
heard
before.
that before.
Back on
I've
Earth.
heard that in a
Yeah.
pub.
It's quite, of course,
I'm
you
not
know.
even
A
joking.
pub.
Don't know how many.
Yeah, no,
I've heard that before.
Specifically a weather.
Let's get down to the evidence.
That's
guys,
good.
let's get
Yeah,
down.
yeah. Sorry.
Sorry, continue. Yeah.
Right.
Side note.
So back on Earth at the Goddard Space Flight Center, thousands of flight technicians and computer experts employed the IBM system, mainframe computer thing, to make independent computations or whatever, and maintain communication between Earth and lunar landers. These computers cost about 3.5 mil a piece and were like the size of a car, so each could perform like several 100,000 additional operations per second, and their total memory capacity was like in the megabyte range, so like not even a gigabyte.
Jeez.
Programs were developed in the 75s to 1975 that monitored the spacecraft's environmental data and astronauts' health, which were at the time the most complex software ever developed.
Fair enough.
That is mad.
The calculator's out doing that.
I mean, yeah.
Exactly.
When it says, like computing, what was the word? The term?
Computing
power.
Computations or something.
Computations is one I got
So are
down.
we talking
It's like-
calculations per second?
Like at once, yeah. So like
Simultaneous
Oh, I
calculations.
see. Yeah.
Okay.
how many like equations? you
What
can
kind
work
of pocket calculator do you mean? Do you mean like one you get from like a Christmas crack?
A
Or
scientific one. I'll just
out. I
say.
reckon,
like
I
a-
reckon like Casio
Or like,
you know.
like a scientific
We're not
one?
One,
sponsored by Casio,
yeah. Well, you
unfortunately.
know,
I'll say just a
that's the one
standard
I
Casio
used.
one.
Yeah.
We'll have to
Yeah.
leave that out.
Cut me through mine out.
Yeah.
Right. Voting. So legitness.
Well, I mean, I've heard it from a lot of places, and I reckon it's definitely plausible.
So have I. Yeah.
There's that rule that
I-
says
I'm-
computing power doubles every.
When
year
I
or
when I
something.
heard that fact, I heard that it was a small Nokia phone, like
Oh.
because there was a small Nokia phone to hand. So I'm like,
Fair enough.
I'm still questioning that a calculator has more computing power than.
I've
still
heard it
questioning
before
it.
with calculator. To be fair, so
I
I'm gonna stick
have
with
heard
Josh.
it,
Yeah.
but
I don't want to, like, maybe I've just missed something, but it seems to be like a lot of information about the lunar things, but there's not much evidence to back up the
On the
actual power
calculator.
of the.
That's what I did think that myself.
Yeah, how many
We haven't
Like
got a
they're
direct
just talking
statistic.
about the
calculator doing them?
computers that it's up against, but not much to.
I agree actually.
Oh shit.
So that
That's
for me,
Exactly.
I'm gonna kick off the legitness with a low score of 5.
It's a bit
I
harsh.
think
but-
five's fair. It's halfway.
I'd give it a 6. I think it's
Like, we've
definitely
heard
got
it
more
before,
credibility, but
it's not enough evidence for
I
me.
would like some citation on that. But
Luca?
Is this for legitness?
Legitness, yeah.
I'll give it a solid 5 because it's just
Yeah.
one of those facts you hear like the
Alright.
3-second memory about
other
a
people
fish.
have spoken.
It's like you don't actually know.
Old wives' tale.
Might be a.
Pretty sure there was a study
Nice.
about goldfish remembering patterns in order to
Yeah,
find
no,
food
you
and
can
stuff.
teach them
Wasn't there?
tricks.
They could remember up to like 3 months. So there you
Yeah.
go. Goldfish, quite
I
clever.
can remember up to 3 seconds.
Okay, epicness.
In terms of
That is
interestingness,
Definitely
pretty
is an
mad.
interesting
Yeah.
fact. Like
But
that's
3 of us had heard it in some variation on it before.
yeah.
So is it that
Me being
interesting
the only
or
one.
original? I feel like
I know what
originalness
you mean.
comes
Yeah,
into
yeah. Originally, it
interestingness.
has to come into it. Yeah, I think that's
If
true.
you do think about overall, like a pocket calculator having more power than
It's
that
definitely
is definitely
interesting.
crazy.
It's interesting, yeah, but it's
I'd
Ollie's
say
gonna
like
drop
a-
marks for originality. That's fair enough. You
I
kick us
don't
off,
know.
Jaigo.
I would say a 7 for that.
7.
I'm happy to stick with 7. I think 7's a fair shake.
I'd probably go 6, but so
Luca.
majority.
Probably
say
go
7.
like 7. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could use it.
There we go then.
Stick for 7.
There we go. Everyone's gone 7. So his total loot score so far is a solid 12. Hopefully the
Jaigo's at
next
3
score's
points
gonna be a bit
ahead.
more.
We now have usefulness.
Yeah. Is it useful?
I would admit it's not.
Although
I-
it's not particularly useful.
Yeah, I think it like you can use it. So it's
Yeah,
like a
although it's not
conversation,
particularly
can you?
useful as in it's not going to benefit my life, it's definitely useful as in that's going to come up a lot when people have a calculator out or, as you said, a Nokia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could find that factor. I'm going to say 8.
But the only thing is that because a couple of us have heard it is probably one of those things that people have heard a lot, so they're probably just
Oh, that's a good point. That does make it a little bit less
Already
useful,
know it.
to be fair, if you
Yeah.
already know it.
Mm.
Alright,
It's a difficult one.
that's a
What would
good
you
point.
mark
I'm
it
going to
for?
dot mine down 7. It was an 8, but you're right, if it's less useful if more people know it. So I'm going to go, 7.
Jago.
Yeah, I think 7 is fair.
7. I'm again going to go with my trademark 6.
We go with Oliver on this one, 6.
Six. Split.
What we saying?
We won't go half marks. We'll go because the majority
Got
have
it.
been 7. We'll go with 6.
Okay, that's how democracy works.
I hate my life.
From now on, if it's like a split score, we'll always go lower. Just
Ollie's
so that's
getting
fair.
twos.
Split scores go lower.
Overall, we have 18.
We have a grand total of 18
Quick maths.
points.
That's horrible.
That's a solid
It's not
score.
bad.
It's not a bad score. It's
Jago
over average.
started off high, so that's going to make us all look.
Yeah,
awful.
Jago's was a bit of a corker. I like
Jaigo
that. one.
always starts off high.
Nice fact, Josh.
So,
Thank you.
that was good.
So speaking of horrible segues, here's Ed's fact.
Nice. Okay, so
I like that.
my fact is that water can freeze and boil at the same time. Now, as mental as this fact sounds, looking at it on video, the setup doesn't look too scientific or complex. It seems simple, just a Bunsen burner placed over a small glass container which has all the air sucked out of it. The temperature of the flame increases until eventually the temperature and pressure of the fluid reaches a point of thermodynamic equilibrium. This can also be known as the triple point of the fluid, and it is when the point is reached that we see the marvelling brilliance take place. To try and explain what thermodynamic equilibrium is in short terms isn't an easy task. By definition, thermodynamic equilibrium is an axiomatic concept of thermodynamics. It is an internal state of a single thermodynamic system or a relation between several thermodynamic systems. It sounds absolutely incomprehensible, and I'm not going to try and explain it because I don't understand it myself. So to put it in slightly better or easier terms, it's systems that are mutual in thermal, mechanical, chemical or radiative equilibria simultaneously.
In English.
So basically, they're matched. Oh, it's hard to explain. It's really hard to explain.
As they spread out, because they're being heated, the pressure that's creating then causes them to also be frozen
So-
as a state.
Yes, because it's very, very hard to explain.
It does sound very complicated, admittedly.
Right, we'll have a little
I'm no
cut
scientist.
here.
pressure
We'll have a little cut just so I can get my thoughts.
Is it the pressure that makes it really dense and then
It's
therefore
fucking, it's
it
mad to
squeezes?
be fair.
'Cause then
really
Well, that's
hard
going
to
down on
explain.
the bloody.
Yeah,
that's
one,
like-
I won't
yeah,
say
yeah.
that much.
Mate, that's literally as easy as you can explain it. It's systems.
What, so as
that
the
are
Bunsen
mutually
burner's getting
thermal.
hotter, the pressure rises in the thing.
To be fair, if you want to boil an egg and make a smoothie at the same time, so
Right, let me just read this over again.
So if that's it, then is the like it'll compress so much
That's
that
not a bad idea.
like, the,
Making an egg.
the molecule.
that'd be mad, wouldn't it?
Sounds absolutely mad.
You can actually put an egg in a kettle and it boil though.
It's systems
Really?
that
Yeah.
are mutual.
People used to do it. It used to be like, you used
Oh, I get it.
egg in the
Okay,
kettle,
so
put your eggs in the kettle.
Go.
right. Okay, so we have a solid bit of water, a little
Yeah.
droplet like that.
As exampled here on our nice table.
This droplet has potential to be a liquid, a solid, or a gas. At the moment, it's a liquid.
Mm-hmm.
However, if it reaches sort of like an equality in thermal, mechanical, and chemical and radiative systems, then it has potential to be all three at once.
Okay. I mean that makes
Right.
sense.
Do we get that? So
Makes
basically,
sense.
it's because it can't decide which to be. It's being all three at once. So that's why the system keeps freezing and boiling and freezing and boiling and freezing and boiling.
Okay.
However, just because it looks simple doesn't mean you can do it at home, or we can't do it in studio. We need a lots of equipment
That's a
and things
shame.
like that. But
Some kind of vacuum.
I spoke to Lauren Davis over at IO9, and
Mm.
this
What's he
system
got?
that I was explaining, she says isn't quite right. She explains it slightly differently. She says, as the liquid boils, high energy molecules leaves the liquid as gas, lowering the temperature of the liquid left behind and causing it to freeze. This process of boiling and freezing continues while the substance remains at this pressure and temperature, which although isn't quite as, excuse the pun, cool sounding as a thermodynamic equilibrium, it definitely seems a lot more understandable. She explains that instead of being perfectly in balance, we're seeing phase changes near the triple point, not on the triple point, as the three states aren't in perfect equilibrium. But
Okay.
either way, water is freezing and boiling at the same time. So it doesn't matter how it's working.
Let's mark him up.
Yeah,
Ollie,
it's pretty cool.
what are you thinking about
I'm
that?
not gonna lie. Well, in terms of legitness, there's clearly a lot of research gone into that. I can't fault the research, and I'm sure if we were to do some research of our own, I'm sure our facts would match up with that. That seems pretty legit to me. So I'm going to give it a solid 8 for legitness. I'm only docking the 2 points off 10 because you struggled a bit to explain it. So,
Yeah, that was
I
probably
feel
the
that's
bits that I
counter-
explained. There was probably.
Bit unfair.
so I
legit.
reckon solid 8 for legitness.
I'll give him a 9 for that.
You're giving him a 9?
Yeah, because I feel like it is legit. But like you said you struggled to explain it, but then again,
Yeah.
it doesn't take away from the.
It's understandable.
know,
It's
It
understandable.
doesn't make the fact untrue.
Yep. Okay, Josh.
I'm going 8 as well. I think.
Going an 8 for legitness.
Yeah,
I
you
like that.
You struggled to explain it, but I think the amount of evidence
Yeah.
you got down, I think, yeah.
Okay. And Luca, what are you feeling?
Say an 8.
He's going
Nice.
for the 8.
Give you
So
an
An 8, yeah.
8's around. If you could put that down, I'd appreciate it.
I would love to.
Perfect. Okay. So what about epicness? How interesting do you find that fact?
pretty mad, but-
I'd give it a solid 9. Just
You
'cause
give
how
it a solid
cool it
9.
is.
Take away from the boring explanation of it
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
Mm.
It is.
Well,
a
can we
fuck-
though? Because
Yeah,
like, I feel
that's-
like you're gonna
Dunno.
have to give them an explanation. You can't just
Like you said, you
like,
can't
be
do it at
like,
home.
oh, this is a thing. They're gonna be like,
Because like you said, you can't do it at
Like-
home, and you need it.
you need a bit
the
more
right
than
amount
that.
of
You know what I
equipment.
mean?
So yeah, it's
Mm.
pretty mad, but like.
It's only a 7 from me.
You think a 7?
Yeah.
I'm
He's
thinking
lowballing
7 as
him.
well.
Good
Okay,
fact, but
7.
it's just way too much.
Luca?
I'm going with Jaigo.
What are you saying for interestingness?
I
Epicness
already
even?
said I said a solid 9.
You said a solid 9, of course you did. Apologies.
Did you listen?
I'd go for
Child.
scathing. I'd probably go for about an 8. So it was 9, 8, 7, 7. So we're going to go in the
Get an
middle,
average.
say 7. 'cause it's
7.
7. Scores on the board, please.
Alright.
It's not happy.
And as for
That's how averages
usefulness. Usefulness.
He
What are we
liked
saying
my
for
9, but
usefulness?
he didn't like the 7.
I like the score as a whole.
How useful do you think this fact is?
I mean,
Not very.
not extremely, because
Mhm.
like, yeah, it's not like
I
you use it
can't-
in everyday appliances.
Yeah, I can't see
Mhm.
like a point where
You
you're
could
going
slip it
to,
into
and even if you
conversation,
do
make some
like,
I mean, when you are like cooking eggs in the kitchen, like boiling eggs, you could chat to your mum and be like, "Do you know that you can boil that and
Yeah.
melt it? Oh no, and freeze it at the same time." Sorry, I got my words mixed
I
up.
mean, in
Melt the
theory,
egg
you
with
could
the
also
water.
use it to make
Yeah.
delicious milkshakes, as well as the fact you could
Once
also
again, milk, not water.
No, you can't.
Oh, you could make a milkshake at the same time as a
You can't.
Yeah, you can't.
fried egg.
No, because milk doesn't boil and freeze at the same time. Water
It's
does.
water.
Oh wow.
So it's not really.
How
Water
do we
based
know that?
milkshake.
We should ask
Alright,
Laura.
so
Shake.
I'll give it.
Technically cyclohexane, but we won't get into that.
I'll give it a
Let's
solid
not
5,
get into that.
5, 6 for usefulness. I'm saying so 5 for me. Luca,
5.
5. You guys,
5 from me.
5.
Yeah, 5.
5's all round then.
I think
Incredible.
Copied us, Oliver.
Okay.
too many big words.
So we've got
I'm not
8
smart
plus
enough.
5
I
is
lost
me
13
lost
plus
in
7 is
equilibrium.
20.
The right side is better.
Solid 20.
Thermodynamic.
That means, ladies and gentlemen, Jaigo is still in the lead.
Wait, how? Oh,
Horrible.
how? I didn't
Okay,
count
stand
that,
up.
sorry, properly, sorry.
That's right. Right now, next on to Oliver, who's going to give us a fact on animals.
And before we move on to the topic of animals, I'd like to take a moment to talk to you about our sponsor. Pet Shop have kindly offered their financial support to us, and in return we ask a moment of your time to talk about their new product range releasing in the UK. Pet Shop is the best way to make your pet's mealtimes more exciting with a selection of nutritious condiments available for your best friend. Available online at www.petshop.store.uk. Enter discount code F4CTS. That's facts, all capitals, with a 4 replacing the A for an additional saving on great tasting condiments that we bet your pet will enjoy. A massive thank you to our sponsor Pet Shop for making this episode of Factinating possible. Now on with the show. My fact today is about 2 cats, in fact, called Blackie. One cat, named Blackie, as I've previously stated, was bequeathed a fortune of £7 million when his owner, Ben Ree, died. Instead of leaving his estate to his friends and family, he left the majority of it to his cat, Blackie, who was the last surviving at 15 he lived in his mansion with. He was a millionaire antiques dealer. He refused to recognise his family in his will and split almost all of his wealth between 3 cat charities, his one cat called Blackie, a couple of gardeners and mechanics also got some money. Our other cat that we're going to talk about today is also called Blackie and was adopted by a man called Carl Miles, who credited his psychic ability to this cat. One afternoon he was playing with his cat named Blackie, who was about 5 months old at the time, and Miles thought that he was saying things to him, which is a bit odd. After about a year and a half of talking to him, and trying to teach him the English language, Blackie could eventually say short words and phrases that Miles and his wife would ask people to pay to hear. So he'd walk along the street, people would give him a couple of cents, I think it was, because it's in the States. Yep, a couple of quarters. And then Blackie would say some choice words. Unfortunately, though, police charged the couple with operating a business without a license, and they had to stop. Miles did fight the case, and he fought for Blackie's freedom of speech, but unfortunately, the laws were not allowing that, and the judge came quite harshly down upon him.
Reminded him that cats couldn't speak.
Yeah. Although Blackie's freedom of speech was fiercely defended in court, he did not.
Well, that's a little double fact.
In fact, in court, another little extra fact on here. The judge said that if Blackie had such good freedom of speech, he'd ask Blackie to speak for himself. And Blackie, of course, not very good at defending himself in court. So
that is a good fact.
that's how he went down.
And it's a double fact.
It's a double fact.
I feel like the second part was just a bloke squeezing his cat and just making him make horrible sounds. It sounds to me like animal abuse.
I mean, it's potentially a bit.
So I squeezed his rump
Yeah.
to make him make the
That's what I
sound.
thought you said.
What
Just
did you-
squeezed
Well,
it.
called
Yeah.
meowing.
He crushed it.
Yeah.
Just gave it a little bit of a.
Oh, that's a bit different.
I
That's
can't
all right.
imagine he just took his cat and was like.
I'm thinking just like bagpipes.
Squeal.
It's just fucking.
Yeah.
No, I think
Mauling
it
it.
just
Can't prove it.
He said meow.
it sounded a bit like English. So what are we thinking is
Right.
is that pretty legit?
First of
fact?
all, yeah,
Double
sounds
bill,
legit
but-
to me.
Mm.
I mean, we haven't got any particular journals or anything. It seems a bit hearsay, but
It isn't. It
I
is
can't see
cited,
why people
but
lie about it.
There are records of the court cases if we want to look it up.
and we this
In terms of
can't forget
business
it's a double
charging.
fact as well. The first bit of the fact was pretty legit.
I say the first part sounds more real, but the second part sounds a little bit less.
It does sound a bit
Interesting.
urban mythy, but I mean you can
We'll
look
take the
up
facts
the
to
court
heart.
case.
I think I'll give it a 9 overall in general. I can't see anything in there, even though it sounds a bit hearsay, as you said. We could look up the
Mm.
court case.
It could be a bit urban mythy, but
That sounds good to me. I'm gonna go 9.
okay.
Anyone else?
Who's next then?
Three.
Say
Jaigo's low.
Three.
Jesus
Three.
Christ.
Well, no,
Why
it makes
three?
more. Well, I don't know what part you wanted me to judge, but like the
Oh,
second
legit
part, it
didn't
sounds
ask
more
for the
like
square
a
root of
sounds
it.
more like a story rather than a
Yeah.
fact. Like, where is the fact?
Yeah, true.
So I
Okay.
like maybe I'm
accept
missing
where you're coming
something, but this thing might have happened. The cat might have
Yeah,
made
I'm
it sound
with
like it's
Jaigo.
just it's not very factual. This
Yeah,
is a
I'm-
podcast
I'm
about facts.
I
Okay.
think I'm gonna go
Fair
for
enough.
a solid 2.
I think the fact was more the fact that a cat
Yeah.
was given
Actually,
a case on freedom of speech.
Yeah, but
that's
the way it was
interesting
presented,
itself.
I missed it, and I
I
judged
should
it
have
based on
focused
how it
on
was
the court
presented
case,
to
really.
me.
The fact was that
So
the
I'm
cat
thinking
It's a free.
was
So
charged for
It's a
operating
free
a
for me
business
as
without a
well.
license. So we got 2, 3, 3, 9.
Mm.
So lowball that and go for the 3, I guess.
Well, apparently we're going for lower score, so 2.
Oh, we? We're lowballing even
That's
further.
that's why we
It's
voted
like
mine,
score.
so
Wow. Right.
What
let's
did
put
everyone
that
give
there.
him?
So we're going
I
3
don't
or
know.
2.
give yourself 3.
Alright, we'll go 3.
Yeah, go
It's
3.
unredeemable
I did
Put one
say
back
3.
up.
Unless I get 2
But
10s, I
2
haven't
first.
got anywhere near the lead anyway. So
Good point.
that's fine.
Right,
I
what's
reckon
next?
Jaigo's
Epic
score there
notes.
was actually a game move.
Yeah, I
It's
think.
a bit
Well, I
game
think
theory.
it's interesting as well. To be honest, that fact you had 2 bits.
Epicness.
Both about a cat called Blackie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, I'm gonna. Yeah,
I'm gonna give him a 10 on this one.
I'm gonna go 9 again.
What for interestingness? Epicness even.
Epicness.
Sorry.
Epicness.
Sorry. I'm putting
That
this
sounds
shit
like such a hate.
Epicness is not a word.
Mm.
Neither was legitness.
Neither is factonating.
No,
There we
it's
are.
not, it's on
Yeah.
me.
Factual.
That's how. Okay. Again, I've gone with quite a low score here. I think maybe like a 4. Only
Do
because
you not think a talking cat and a 7 million?
no,
Well,
because
well,
for a
first
cat is
thing, the
interesting.
first thing, like Luca said, there's been like other people leaving their fortunes too. So I think that's
Mm-hmm.
like not as original as it may
Okay.
seem.
Yes, but the cat has a name, Blackie, that also
They're
shares
both
its name
called
with.
Blackie
I
in
mean, that's the
fairness.
interestingness.
Yeah,
of it,
that-
not the fact
yeah.
that someone's left.
But no, that's just kind of like
I don't think that makes
by
it epic.
chance these 2 cats are named
Yeah.
the same thing.
So what are we
by
going for?
chance.
I'm going
Mine
5.
was a 4.
Fuck. God, what do you vote?
I'll go with you 9.
9. Right, so what's that? 6.
Yeah.
6.
So we're
Okay,
averaging them
six.
now.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel bad now. I wish you didn't say 3.
I can't believe I went for 3.
I mean,
Such good fact.
What?
I think we should
Well,
have done it the
well,
other way.
I
round.
wouldn't-
Take
I
a look
wouldn't
at
have
that.
gone
I
for
was,
three
I was
unless you
quite
said
generous
that.
towards you,
Feel
Jaigo, as
bad.
well.
Huh?
I was quite generous to you, and now I see you're just
So would
gaming
I
the
if you
system.
gave-
Yeah, if we're marking it this critically, Jesus.
Yeah, you've got a 2.
Now we got to
Okay,
give him a
well.
10, so he's at least close.
Right, anyway, enough waffling.
I mean, this is usefulness. I can't see this has got any use, but
Oh.
yeah.
Usefulness.
I'll give him them.
In terms of
Yeah, yeah,
arguing
to be
free
fair,
speech
you-
It
Usefulness.
isn't actually that useful.
I suppose the
It's-
law
it is-
thing's
it is
true.
legal
with
precedent,
animals,
that.
yeah, yeah.
I mean,
but
if
it's
somebody
legal
wants
precedent.
to start a business with a cat, I mean,
well, that's true. Any pet in law, that's sort of true. And the money being passed down to pets is quite interesting, and
Yep.
I think that could be useful.
I've got a
Essentially.
question actually. Do you think
Uses
a
the
parrot
parrot's money.
in court could like defend itself?
I don't
No.
think they're that
No.
cognitively advanced.
Unless they've repeated the
unfortunately.
whole.
Yeah,
I'll
unless
tell you
defence,
what,
like-
let's put this into use. Probably not.
Oh,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's already been put
Yeah,
into
to
one,
be
so I'm going to
fair,
have to
we've
give
got
that an
legal
8.
precedent there.
Give it an 8.
So, giving it 8 for
Give it
usefulness.
an 8.
You two?
7, but only for
Yeah,
the first
I'm
part.
going
'cause I didn't
seven
like the
as
second
well.
part.
Okay, so 8, 8, 7, 7.
We'll go 7. If
We're going
it's a joint
7.
school, we go
We
lower.
are going low balling, aren't we?
Yeah.
So 7.
9 plus.
There we go.
That's fair enough. 7's fair enough.
So grand total of 16 on that one.
Can't say I agree with that.
Lowest score
Well, I got
wins.
18, so I'm not, you know.
What do you say?
Win is always a loser. No,
Okay.
lose is always a win for me.
Well, moving swiftly on from that harsh criticism of what I thought was quite a good fact, we're now going to move on to Luca,
I thought
who's
it
got
was
some quality celebrity gossip from us from the early 90s.
Yes, I do.
Good man.
Right. Did you know that Robert Downey Jr. has been arrested multiple times and spent time in prison in the 90s and early 2000s?
Did know
Yes. The Iron Man actor Downey was first arrested in 1996 for possession of heroin, cocaine, and an unloaded Magnum revolver. He was then arrested 2 weeks later when he broke into a neighbour's house
Pretty
in
mad, to be
Malibu
fair.
while under the influence of drugs. I mean, like, why would you even break into your neighbour's house?
Neighbours,
Isn't it?
Why
all
didn't he do
people,
drugs?
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Why would you be
Downey
on
spent
Well,
some
drugs,
time.
really.
Downey spent some time in prison in '97 and '98. Was placed on probation, and was ordered to undergo drug counselling. However, a missed drug test proved to be his downfall. It landed him in California substance abuse treatment and state prison in Corcoran in 1999. Downey was then released in 2000. But 3 months later, he was arrested again in Palm Springs for possession of cocaine. Again. And Valium. A little bit of Valium. He was released on $15,000 bail the following day. He's a
Fair
rich
enough.
man.
Ah,
Yeah.
Robert Downey
That's
Jr.
interesting. I knew he had a criminal past, but I didn't know how much it was.
Mm.
Why does it
Yeah.
sound like such a hater?
This isn't all of it as well. This is just a couple. There's like
And then
Yeah.
Hollywood stars, there's
I
pictures
had
of
heard that
them.
before, though.
Apparently got hooked when he was 12 or something.
Oof.
Really?
yeah.
Oh,
Back then, all like stuff like heroin was like more glamorized, like cocaine. So you
Yeah,
didn't know what it was.
All the 12-years were doing it back then.
I'm more readily available as well.
Yeah, probably.
Like
Yeah.
it was on Pulp Fiction.
Alright, so, yeah,
That's
good
true,
point.
actually. It looks pretty sick.
Right,
If
so,
I hadn't heard heroin before, I'd be like, hit me up with some of that. That's dank.
Hit me up.
Looks alright.
What's the mark?
legitness.
I mean,
I mean,
there's definitely
Probably is.
research
It's
there, there's
pretty
dates,
legit, yeah.
there's
Yeah,
almost
it's-
certainly
it's-
court
it's
records.
10,
to
even
prove
though
that.
it's
10 out of 10
I mean,
legit.
yeah.
10 out of 10
10,
legit.
yeah.
Putting that
We
shit
get
a
that
star.
right
Yeah.
We don't
Any
understand
disagreement?
that. No.
Right, 10 out of 10 for legitness.
Epicness.
It is a pretty cool fact. About
It
someone who's
is,
very famous.
But
feel like
I
it
think
falls
most
flat on
people
that.
know it.
A lot of people do know it, but like in my
I thought it was pretty
defence,
well
I'll
known.
say that you probably did know you spent time in prison, but you probably didn't know all of the things that were on
Yeah,
there.
no, it's true. It's
I'd
true.
give it a good solid, like, 7, 8 maybe.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a little bit more harsh with it. I do think you're right. There is parts,
I'll
but
give 7.
I'm gonna go half,
But-
5.
I'm gonna stick half as well. Just keep a nice simple 5.
Okay, so we go 5, 5.
That's cool.
Well, I do think that if you were a fan of Robert Downey Jr., it might be something that you were interested in, but then again, I think it's just like another Hollywood star has been arrested sort of story. So it's a 5 from me.
It's a
Fair
5,
enough.
so
Yeah,
Grand total 5.
Thought you were going to give me a
Usefulness.
low score then, wasn't
yeah, yeah. That's what I was
I'm
thinking.
going to roast you.
5 to 1. It's because he's been too harsh already.
Okay
Right.
then. And
Usefulness.
then usefulness.
Well, it definitely come up quite a lot. If we all know it, it must be
Definitely comes
quite
up in
useful.
Conversation.
So, however, we did
Which
say
do you think is well
earlier,
known?
if everyone knows it, then it
Yeah.
does become less useful.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I'd still give it like a.
I'll give it a 7. I'm going
I'd
to give it a 7 just because it's a fact that I could probably use more than any of the ones we've heard today.
I reckon. reckon maybe an 8 to be fair. I reckon it'd come up in conversation quite a lot.
High.
I'll
I
stick
reckon
my
it's something
7.
you could cite a lot.
Yeah.
I reckon it's good. I reckon it's a really useful fact.
I'm gonna go a bit harsher because I think it's just
Okay.
quite a well-known fact because how famous he's got right now because of
Mhm.
Marvel and all that. I'm gonna go 6.
He's going to go for the 6. And
Fair
Jaigo?
enough.
Mixed opinions. Well, I do think it is something you could bring up a lot because
Mhm.
it's quite an easy fact. I think that's also quite unoriginal. Like I said, a lot of
Scores
Hollywood
quickly.
stars doing drugs, getting arrested. Like
Okay.
it's not very new.
He's going to change his score.
So
now. You can't change score.
Just glance at
score?
the
You're
You're not allowed to
scoreboard.
change
Said it,
it.
yeah.
Oh, is
Huh?
he not? No, he did. He said 7.
no, I didn't.
No, I didn't.
I'll never give that to
That's
us. That's a 5 now that you said that.
5, right.
Yeah,
so
just because I was going.
8, 7, 6. Wait, is it 5, 6, 7, 8?
What did he give?
I get 6.
Alright,
Yeah,
if
5,
I-
6, 7, 8. So it's 6.
Go with 6 then.
6 it is.
21.
I hate it.
6.
Oh, Jacob.
Can't believe
So we've got a
Jago.
grand total of
I genuinely
21.
can't believe
If
Jaigo.
we're all
won.
to vote at the end, there's
Yeah.
no way
Okay.
Jago.
I think if it was,
So-
I think
course.
if we knew all the facts first, I think we would have definitely put Jaigo last.
I knew how harshly we were marking
Yeah.
it all.
So
no, it's not harsh. It's just
at the end of the
opinion.
show, of course, we have one chance to eliminate one person's facts.
Yeah.
Jago.
Just in
Yeah,
case
let's all
we
vote
thought
for
they were
Jago.
being unjust with their criticism and trying to game the system.
Oh, we
So,
could actually do
Luca.
that in future.
Jago.
Look, we are doing that.
Yeah, let's do that now, actually.
Why
Yeah.
didn't we do the
Yeah.
original idea of writing down the scores then showing it at the end, like we
Bit
said?
dead, innit?
Then it would have
Yeah.
been a better
We
one.
just broke the fourth wall.
Tell you what,
So,
yeah, let's not break the fourth wall.
Which four?
Camera pans round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
What's the third wall? Like the second
That's a
wall.
good point, yeah.
Third, second,
Fourth
first,
is
fourth.
Oh, that makes perfect
The
sense.
fourth
That's
one's
what
the
it
one.
is.
Yeah,
Fourth
yeah,
is
that's
between.
it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Fourth is
Really?
between
Well,
the
that would have been a
That
perfect
makes perfect
sitcoms.
sense, yeah,
It's
yeah.
a sitcom.
Yeah.
Fourth is between the audience. Yeah.
There you go. That's a 10
Does
out
that
of 10
mean
fact
if,
on the
like,
next time he's
Yeah,
up.
to
they're
be fair, that's
breaking
a fact.
the second wall. Does that mean they're only going to be like?
They're
No,
breaking
so
this
it's
wall,
the
just running up
back.
and
Yeah.
breaking
Yeah,
the
breaking
wall.
the second wall, just have a bit of your set
It's
missing.
with a sitcom, so like.
So
there's
if
always
you're,
one
if you're
wall
filming a
with the audience
sitcom,
watching.
look, you've got your wall, you got, say, you've got all your characters in there, and you've got Cameron there.
There's only one angle that it's not.
So it's filmed
yeah,
from that
so
angle.
that's
real
That would be where the fourth wall is, and they've all got to pretend there's a wall there. Because
Oh.
So it's like from the angle of the fourth wall,
it's
where
about
the fourth wall
yeah,
would be. is
breaking
where
the
the
fourth
audience
wall,
is. Yeah,
recognising there's a camera there.
No way.
Yeah.
Which
there
are like,
Yeah, which there is.
Which
a
there's
wall.
no technical.
Recognising that you're like, I don't know what I was going to say.
Bonus fact.
Bonus fact.
bonus
yeah.
fact at the end there, ladies and
That's
gentlemen, the fourth wall.
Okay, so our first, I'm going to say undisputed, but it's definitely disputed.
It's highly disputed, but at the
Vaccinating
same time,
champion is Jaigo Plummer.
Thank you very much.
congratulations.
Oh, there you go.
Cheers.
Thanks
Would
for
you like to
watching,
say
guys. Tune in next week for our next episode of.
Factinated.
We could redo that quick.
Yeah, probably.
I like
What,
that.
the whole thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.